What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmacSports.
Instagram is also at Immaculate Sports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 90, and we know the finals matchup, Boston and the Warriors. We got the full in-depth finals preview. Before that, usual baseball, buyers, sellers, awards, some other stuff.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff this week. Should be a pretty fun episode. Don't know if it's going to be a super long episode, but we got some good stuff this week, and we're kind of in the dog days now of summer, I guess, at this point when it comes to baseball, where it's a constant as far as sports go, but obviously the NBA is winding down and the NFL is kind of in their dry stage right now too. So once the finals are done, it's going to be a lot of baseball, but luckily we've set ourselves up to have some content when it gets down to there. But the first thing that we're going to do, same thing that we do every single week, is talk about the best thing that we saw over this past week. Skyler, what was the favorite thing that you saw?
I got to go with Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Boston looked like for 46 minutes of this game they were going to run away with it, but those last 2 minutes made up for it. You know, Jimmy Butler had 35 points, obviously pulled up for a 3 for the win. He probably could have tied it up there, going at Al Horford back trailing one-on-one there, but I don't blame him. He played every single minute of that game. He did not want to go to overtime, and he hit that shot this series. So I don't blame him. Unfortunate for Miami. Would have been an easier matchup for the Warriors, but still a great game. Congrats to the Celtics.
Yeah, for sure. Great job by the Celtics. That was a great game there. And Jimmy even said that he's going to live with that shot. He's not going to kick himself. Obviously, he's going to kick himself for not making it, but he's not going to kick himself for not taking that shot, pretty much, is what he was saying. Best thing I saw has to be the Warriors making the 6th finals in the last 8 years. It's only been 2 teams in the last 30 years to do this. It's the Warriors, obviously, and then Jordan's Bulls as well as that other team. The Cavs made it 5 years in a row, and they obviously haven't really been back since, so they don't really make it to that list. But pretty elite company when it comes to that for the Warriors dynasty as well, with Michael Jordan and his squad back in the 90s. That game, though, Game 5, Warriors won 120-110 at home, led the way by Klay Thompson, who had 32 points on 8 of 16 from 3. And then, as always, Kevon Looney playing a big part in this series when he had 10, 18, and 4 assists as well. And the Warriors send the Mavs home. So pretty cool there for the Dubs, obviously. That takes us on to the Immaculate Sports Player of the Week, which we're going with the Western Conference Finals MVP, Stephen Curry, the first person to ever win that award, as it's the first year that they've ever given it out. But pretty cool award for Steph, and one of our favorite players, obviously. So he goes ahead and gets his Immaculate Sports Player of the Week now, probably the biggest award that he's won ever out of anything that he's ever done in his career. So shout out to Steph when it comes to that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But it is episode 90, Skyler.
Yeah.
So who is your favorite number 90?
I'm going to go with a 2000s football legend, kind of started popping up around the time we were watching football. Julius Peppers, 9-time Pro Bowler, just a ridiculous amount of sacks. What's the number? 159 and a half. He will be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure what year he is up for it. Maybe
probably
next year or the year after. Yeah, but he'll be in there. It's my favorite 90.
Yeah. I'm going to go with another pretty good pass rusher, and that's the current reigning defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, who sports the number 90 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kind of crazy to think that this guy already has 72 sacks in his career, even though he's only been around for 4 or 5 years at this point, maybe 6. But I'll go with TJ Watt. Not going to see me name a lot of Steelers on this favorite player with that number list, but TJ's got to be one of them. He's a good guy. That then takes us to the team report. Skyler, do you have anything with the Jets this past week?
We have nothing.
Really?
That's good, though. No bad news coming out of camp.
That's true.
Yeah.
Not too often when you have something heat up once we get to June or late May for football, but it's about to heat up here for the Raiders as on June 1st, they get $19 million in cap space cleared off the boards of Corey Littleton and Carl Nassib's contract, I believe it was, maybe somebody else, but
go get some corners.
Yeah, they have those two contracts coming off the board, and that leads the Raiders to having $25 million left in cap space for this season. A lot of people thinking Ndamukong Suh is going to be a guy that comes over here, considering Akeem Hicks just went to the Buccaneers. From there, it seems like the Raiders were the only team that were left interested in him. There's a slight need at that third wide receiver spot. You can go with Keelan Cole, you can go with DeMarcus Robinson, or you could go with Odell Beckham if you really want to. Go ahead and do that. So They got the money for it if they want to give him a 1-year prove-it deal. Or, I mean, he's kind of already proven it, but he tore his ACL again, obviously. Or if you want to, I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to do this, but if teams want to move a star and the Raiders are willing to give up their picks in the future, they definitely have the cap space to go ahead and add another really good player on either side of the ball, whatever they want to do. Probably none of that will happen. Probably just a Ndamukong Suh, but it's good to speculate. It's good to talk, and it's pretty much where we're at right now with the team in Las Vegas. That takes us into the spotlight now, Skyler. Tell me about the most famous plumber in New York right now.
Yeah, that is Nick Plummer, the Mets outfielder, 4 for 8, 2 homers, 5 RBIs in his first 2 career starts. He was up a little bit, had a pinch hit at bat earlier in the year. But the Mets are 7-3 in the last 10, even after their injuries. A lot of that is due to this guy helping them in the last 2 games. And it just wasn't enough to get a weekly award. So I got him here in the spotlight because it's important.
Yeah, for sure. I am going with an MLB prospect, and that's Corbin Carroll, who I want to spotlight. It's the Diamondbacks' number 1 prospect and the 13th ranked prospect in all of the major leagues. 21-year-old is currently playing at AA Amarillo, the Sod Poodles, I'm pretty sure, or Sod Poodles or something like that is their team name. So kind of classic minor league baseball team name there. But he's been going ham this year for them. 12 homers with 15 stolen bags already this year, slashing just under 300 as far as average goes. OBP at 429, OPS over 1 right now, and his WCR plus or WRC plus, not CR, is sitting at 161 right now. This dude's projected to come up next year because he is in AA right now, but with how Diamondbacks have been looking and some of their younger guys, could be a pretty exciting trio or quad, whatever you want to call it, with Alec Thomas, Corbin Carroll, Dalton Varsho, and the guys that they got calling up right now. Pretty exciting year so far for the D-backs. We'll talk more about them later on in the show.
Also big with Corbin Carroll, too, is he had a huge injury last year. He could have came up. They were talking about it, or at least questioning it. So to see him get right back on track is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's been an absolute stud this year, for sure. We'll see if he's probably going to go to AAA first, though, before he goes to AA, I assume. Not a lot of guys make that jump, but usually when they do, that's pitchers, and obviously he is not one of those. But we'll be talking about our player, pitcher, and rookie of the week now as we get into Where's Your Head At. Skyler, who is your player of the week?
My player of the week is going to be Paul Goldschmidt from St. Louis. 21-game hitting streak, 8 for 19. That's a 421 average this week. 4 homers, 9 RBIs. He was pretty much perfect. I don't know if did they play today?
They are playing right now, I believe, against the Padres. Yeah. Going up against Blake Snell. I know
that. He walked in his first at bat, so not extended to 22 yet, but we'll be watching that.
Yeah. I'm also going with Goldie. He had a great week. Like Skyler said already, 8 for 19, 4 homers and 9 RBIs. One of the more underrated players in baseball over this past decade, for sure.
I have a Diamondbacks, Goldschmidt, Scherzer.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go. On to pitcher of the week, Skyler. Who do you got here?
I got Aaron Ashby from the Brewers. This is a guy I've been really high on for a couple years now. 2 quality starts this week, 17 strikeouts in 12 innings, only 1 earned run.
Yeah, I'm going with a guy that's also on the Brewers, but is not named Aaron Ashby. I'm going with Corbin Burns. He pitched on Sunday against the Cardinals and completely shut him out. 7 innings, 2 hits, 11 Ks, and 0 runs allowed. Corbin Burns, who we thought might be off, or did get off to the slow start in his first couple starts with the Brewers this year, has really got it back on track. His ERA is now in the low 2s. It might be even in the high 1s right now. But this guy, he's back. Corbin's definitely back, which is good to see. On to Rookie of the Week.
Yeah, I got Mackenzie Gore again. 7 shutout innings against the Pirates, 9 strikeouts. He has been very good.
I did not go with Mackenzie Gore this time. I think I went with him last week, but I'm going with Paul Goldschmidt's teammate Nolan Gorman, who went 7 for 14 this week with 2 homers and 6 RBIs. One of those homers was his first big league bomb, and to say the least, it was definitely a bomb. A couple of moonshots this week for Gorman, and I mean, Liberatore's coming up for them right now. Gorman's there. They got the old guys. They got the current superstars in Arenado and Goldschmidt. The Cardinals are just one superb franchise. Like there's got everything going on for them.
I got to say before we move on, in Nolan Gorman's MLB debut, I picked him and beat the streak, and he got it for me.
Of course he did. That's Nolan Gorman. Moving on now to our next topic, we're talking buyers and sellers. I know it's a little early right now, but the date of the May 31st, that 31st date just gives us a feeling of the trade deadline, because we know the trade deadline usually falls on that July 31st date. Now it's actually not. I believe it's on August 2nd this year or August 4th.
Oh,
they
we did get
back a little bit because of the lockout.
Yeah.
But usually it's on the 31st, and it being the 31st today got us thinking onto that. It might be a little bit early for this, but we're going buyers and sellers. We have 5 teams here that we're going to go over, see what they're going to do here at the trade deadline. The first team that we're talking about is the Rangers. They made a lot of moves in free agency, signing Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien, who just hit his first home run with the Rangers over this past weekend against the A's. They currently sit at just below 500, I believe. Let me check real quick. They are at 23-24, so a game under 500. Do you think the Rangers buy, sell, stay put? What do you think they're going to do?
I think they got to sell right now. Obviously, the 2 big contracts, Semien and Seager, they're in their first year. Those guys aren't going anywhere. But the guys like Martin Perez, Cole Calhoun, with no future in Texas, should be traded for 2 contenders for something.
Yeah, I'm slightly on the side of staying put, or maybe on a little bit of selling as well. I think the Rangers have a really good understanding of where they fall as far as the American League goes right now. They know they're not the Astros. They know they're not the Yankees, Blue Jays, any of those teams. They kind of understand that they're a tier 2, maybe 2 tiers below those really good teams. So I think they sell a little bit. Martin Perez, Cole Calhoun are some of the guys. Like Skeller was talking about. Only move I could see him pulling off to get a guy would be a long-term starting pitcher, because they don't really have anybody there. Looking at the guys, there's not really a lot of people I like when it comes to that. And their prospects should be coming up soon. Leader, Wynn should be coming up within the next year or 2. And then as far as their infielders, outfielders, guys like that, Huff, Jung, Foscue, and Duran all should be up within the next year or 2 as well. So things are starting to turn around for the Rangers. Obviously, they got 2 superstars to build around, or at least 1 superstar in Corey Seager. But they have 2 big guys that are Seager and Semien to build around for sure. And I assume they're not done spending in free agency over the next few years. Next up, we're talking about the Phillies. They haven't made the playoffs since 2011. Do we see them perhaps make a move here? What do you think they're doing?
They really should sell, but I think they're going to be buyers at the deadline. The pitching's been surprisingly good this year. I think they're 3rd in pitching strikeouts, and they're hitting in the top 10 in everything as expected. I think they'll get a bullpen arm, probably some defense.
Yeah, this team's got to buy. I think they are just rinse and repeat for the Phillies the last 4 or 5 years at this point, where they're just slightly under 500 or slightly over 500, and they make moves and they don't pan out well. They spent a lot in free agency, signing Castellanos and Schwarber and all those guys, but it hasn't worked out so far. It's been the same issue as last year and the year before that. It's the bullpen. So right now they're sitting at 21-28, which is kind of shocking. I feel like they would have been a little bit better at this point, but they got to buy. I mean, it's it's been so long since Phillies had a decent baseball team. Ever since Ryan Howard, Roy Halladay, Carlos Ruiz, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, those guys left.
The flying Hawaiian.
This team has been terrible. So I think they got to buy. Philly fans need something. Their bullpen sits at like 7th worst in the league right now. So that's definitely the focus for me if I'm not the Diamondbacks, the Phillies GM. Now we're going to talk about the Diamondbacks, who are one of the most surprising teams in baseball right now. They're just a couple games under 500, but I think all of us expected them to be terrible this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, they haven't been that way. Christian Walker's been good. Dalton Varsho's been good. Marte's starting to finally heat up. Their starting pitching has been amazing. Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, Bumgarner have been a great trio for them so far. So what do you think the Diamondbacks do at the trade deadline this year?
This may be controversial because, like you said, they're doing better than expected. They're ready to bring up some prospects, but I think they should sell here. Colorado's farther along in the rebuild. And the guys like Zach Gallen, Mad Bum, Kelly, Josh Rojas, I don't think they're going to progress any farther than they are right now. So I think you got to take advantage of this. And it may sacrifice a couple of years, but I think it's best for the future.
I'm going to go slight sell. A very slight sell. I think the guy that comes to mind the most for me is David Peralta. I think they can go ahead and finally move on from him. He's approaching his mid-30s. He's 34 right now. So he's an option that could be moved, and they can actually get some pretty good prospects back for him. He's OPS, so just around 800 right now, and he plays pretty solid defense as well. So they're going to be able to get some prospects back, and I think prospects that they should look for are big league ready infielders, guys that are just about ready to come up or just have came up at this point.
Like Logan Davidson?
Yeah, nice try when it comes to that. I don't think we're trading for David Peralta this year, but a team that comes to mind is the Yankees. Always, they're going to be a team that has big league ready guys. And so I don't know if the Yankees do. I don't know what the return package would be for that, but David Peralta might be the only guy that we see the D-backs sell this year. I think their starting pitching has been great. I think it's going to continue to be great. I think they got some pretty good pieces to build around with those young studs that are coming up from. Now we're going to talk about the Rockies. Skyler alluded to them a little bit earlier. Yeah. Rockies sell, buy. What do you think here?
Here's where I have my slight sell. You got to offload some guys like Iglesias and Daniel Bard, but keep the core together. I really think they're onto something here, and I like their future more than Arizona right now.
I like Colorado too. I had a little stretch where I was picking them to make the playoffs because they got off to such a hot start. They've slowed down since. They've done what the Rockies have done in the past 20 years and just give up a shit ton of runs. That is understandable though, because they do play in Coors Field, but they're giving up a lot more runs than they are scoring runs. So I guess it's maybe not really forgivable, but I'm selling. And one of the guys I'm selling on is Connor Joe. I think this is the highest that he's going to get his value to ever be in his career. So they can probably get some prospects back for him. And then a couple relievers I'm selling on as well, since their prospects are not that good right now. They got to bolster up the depth of their prospects and minor league system. And I think a couple relievers that can go ahead and get them some prospects back is Tyler Kinley and Daniel Bard. Kinley's got an ERA of under 1 right now. He's been a stud for them in the back of the bullpen. And same thing with Bard, not at sub 1, but sitting around that 3 spot. And he's been one of the more consistent arms for that Rockies team over the last few years. But I think this is the time where they move on from him. And, you can really get relievers anywhere. So
I just remembered another Rocky stat. So in this era of the GM that they currently have, not counting this year with Chris Bryant, their 10 biggest signings and trades combined have a negative WAR under this regime. So that's another big reason why I don't think they should buy anything right now. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, that Arenado trade's a little interesting, especially with signing Chris Bryant. But I don't know. They can do whatever they want. They're still selling tickets. Rockies always sell a ton of tickets. Pretty cool ballpark as well. Another team that has a really cool ballpark, but it's old as shit, is the Red Sox. They're finally starting to get going. They sit right now at just 3 games under 500. Seems like just 2 weeks ago we were panicking on the Red Sox, saying that they're going to sell Bogarts. At least I was. I think Skyler was actually saying that they were going to hold on to him. But right now, what do you think the Red Sox are going to do? What do you think the plan of attack should be for them come July?
I think you can look at this both ways. They were on fire the last couple of weeks, but I would sell it. This is another situation where I think there's no way the pitching can continue to be as good as it has been. You know, until Xander is signed, I just don't consider him a part of the future. I have been hearing that they've been trying to sign him, but it hasn't happened yet. And they're not going to catch the Yankees or even Tampa Bay this year. I don't think it's going to happen. So I would try to sell some pitching, maybe.
I'm actually going to go with a buy here for the Red Sox. I think this roster is too good, and we've seen in the past that this team is too good for them to just go ahead and sell with the squad. We still got a whole summer ahead of us. Obviously, a lot of things can change. They can get really hot or they can get cold again. But I'm buying arms. I think getting some innings eaters in their rotation is really big. I know Nathan Eovaldi's been pretty good. Pavetta's been decent as well. Chris Sale isn't even back yet, so once he comes back, that's obviously adding one of the best arms in all baseball. But I think they need a quality 4 or 5 starter that can really eat some innings for them. Somebody like Cole Irvin, who isn't going to shut guys down, but he's going to get you 6 innings just about every single start that he goes out there. I don't think Cole Irvin will be that guy, but a guy that can come to mind, I don't think he's going to be this good the whole season. That's Martin Perez. His value is not going to be super, super high. He's already played for the Red Sox once in his career. And you're not going to have to give up any crazy prospect to go ahead and get him, even though he does have that ERA that's hovering right around 2. So I think they go ahead and add him. He's a high-end 3, low-end, or high-end 4, low-end 3, I think, in my opinion, once it all settles down and everything. He's not throwing 9-inning complete game shutouts against the Astros. But I do think the Red Sox go a slight buy. Nowadays, I don't think there's any chance that they're selling Bogaerts before the deadline.
I don't think you're wrong. And I think this move would help more than it would hurt, but I just don't see how that would get them over the hump. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I understand they don't want to quit. That's not how the Red Sox work.
Their hump is just getting back to normal with a lot of their guys. Verdugo's been terrible. Obviously, Story had a slow start. Now he's starting to get going. Kike hasn't been as good. JD Martinez, even though he's hitting 350, is not hitting a lot of bombs, but they got that core 3 of right now Bogaerts, Devers, Martinez, and they're all hitting 350, and they should be getting it done. So I think they believe that those 3 will get it done. So they're going to buy, probably not give up too much, and we'll see what it gets from there. I don't know if they're making playoffs, but they could be that 7 or 8 spot in the AL for sure. Next thing that we're talking on is not going to be buyers or sellers anymore. We're moving on to which team is the most fun team to watch in baseball. I got MLB TV, so I can obviously kind of see what I'm doing here as far as like which games I'm clicking on and which ones I'm not. So what is your most fun or favorite team to watch this year, Skyler, and why is that?
I think it's got to be the Angels so far this year. They played in so many exciting games. Even a couple days ago, 11-10 against Toronto. They lost, but it was crazy. Even the blowouts are exciting because there's been multiple no-hit bids by the Angels. Oh, and they have Trout and Ohtani, too, in the lineup. Yeah. So that's pretty fun.
Definitely helps when you have two of the best players, if not the 2 best players in all of baseball on your team. It's definitely going to bode for some interesting games to watch as well. I'm going to go with the Mets, though. I think the Mets are so fun to watch as a team, especially as an A's fan. Seeing guys like Starling Marte and Mark Canha and Chris Bassett play for them is really, really cool. In the half season that we saw Marte, I fell in love with the ball player that he is. He's just super fast, super electric, great defense. Even though he doesn't have the most power, when he connects with the ball, it's definitely going somewhere. And, they got Frankie Lindor, Polar Pete, Brandon Nimmo's been great. Jeff McNeil's finally getting things going again. Nick Plummer hitting home runs in the bottom of the 9th to tie up the game. They got a great starting rotation when healthy. I know Max Scherzer and DeGrom are hurt right now, but that's the Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout of pitchers that they have on their team right now with Scherzer and DeGrom. And they're the team that I find myself, the Mets are on. Let's go watch that game. That's what I'm doing right now. Last thing that we're going to talk about before we get to halftime is our top 10 first basemen. We started this tier ranking list kind of thing last week when we did it with the top 10 catchers. We're moving positions here. We're going to the first baseman now. Do you have any honorable mentions that you want to talk about here, Sky?
We'll go Rowdy Tellez and Jared Walsh, two guys that have been mashing, but they just missed it.
Yeah. My honorable mentions were Walsh, Hosmer, Rizzo, and Josh Bell. On to number 10.
All right. Number 10, I have a guy you may not think of here, but it's Luis Arayas. He plays a whole bunch of positions, but this year he's been a primary first baseman. He has a ridiculous on-base percentage, 454, leader by far. And this is pretty much what happens if Juan Soto decides not to hit for power. So he makes the list.
Oh, God. I'm going with Joey Votto at 10. I know he's been terrible this year, but just track record is why I got to put him somewhere on this list. Doesn't play great defense, but usually he's getting it done with the bat. He's gone hot in the past few weeks too, where he's hitting about 300 over these past 14 days. And I think when it's all said and done, might look a little down for Votto, but it's going to be a solid season once things are all said and done, especially playing in that great ballpark. Of great American ballpark in Cincinnati. On to number 9.
Number 9, I have Anthony Rizzo. Kind of slow right now, but a great month. Last month, we know we can get it done in the postseason. So kind of 50-50 on credibility and current.
Yeah. Number 9 for me, I'm going with Yulieski Gurriel. One of the more underrated first basemen in all baseball, in my opinion. I think he's a right-handed Hosmer, but better, pretty much. Where they're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark often, but they hit the ball to the other field. They're able to use all the gaps, and a really good hitter and a really good lineup for Houston for sure this year. I know he's been down a little bit. I don't think he only has like 1 or 2 home runs, but Yuli, guy that we've seen a lot in the last few years for sure as an A's fan, and I'm picking him at number 9. On to number 8.
Number 8, I have Eric Hosmer here. Because I really trust Eric Hosmer. You know, I trust him with 2 outs and the bases loaded, and I'm just happy I was right that he would have a comeback season this year. So he makes the list.
Number 8 for me is going to be the former AL MVP Jose Abreu. I think he's a bit overrated with a lot of things. Doesn't play good defense. I know that's kind of the one position where you can kind of get away with not playing any defense besides DH, obviously. But his bat's digressed a little bit as well. And compared to these other 7 guys that I have in front of him, I don't really think he's better than any of them, obviously. So I'm going with Jose Abreu at number 8. On to number 7.
Number 7, I have CJ Crone. Kind of a career resurgence here in Colorado. He's been on fire the past 2 years. All-star, obviously. And he's, I guess, part of the future now.
Yeah. CJ Crone for me is also number 7. So congrats to Skyler and me for picking the same one there. Been mashing this year. Obviously it's in Colorado, but I don't really think there should be an asterisk for that because he's been hitting some balls that would be getting out anywhere, to say the least. CJ Crone having a great year. And one of the few guys on this list that his current year this year is really pulling his weight in total. Next up, number 6.
Number 6, I have Ty France. Not a huge sample size, but he was our MVP of the season, at least for the first month and a half. You know, so he can't go unnoticed, especially how bad the Mariners are struggling. He's the only guy standing out, along with J-Rod too, but as a masher.
Yeah, number 6 for me is also Ty France. I think same thing here as what Skyler was saying. He's our MVP in the first month of the season. And once we look at the second month, I was looking at the M's record and stuff, and I'm like, he's had to have slowed down at this point. Like, I haven't heard much about him, but he's still doing the same stuff. He's still hitting 320, 330, not hitting a ton of home runs, but it's a tough place to hit home runs in Seattle. So Ty France, guy's a stud. Next up, number 5.
Number 5, I have Freddie Freeman. I think he's very solid all around, but not excellent at one particular thing. And I think the 4 guys I have ahead of him are perfect at that particular superlative. So Freddie Freeman's 5 here.
Number 5 for me has got to be Polar Pete. The dude's a stud right now, and Pete Alonso's taking that number 5 spot. I know his defense isn't anything crazy, but his offense is something to be talking about. Better than the rest of the guys that I've had on this list. Probably not as good as some of these other guys that I have in my top 4, but Polar Pete, I think 5 is a good spot for him. On to number 4.
Number 4 is where I have Matt Olsen. Not playing great right now, but I don't care because I love Matt Olsen. He's the best fielder here on this list. He's pretty close in power, and I think he should get back on track.
Yeah. Number 4 for me is going to be a guy that we've talked about quite a bit already in the show, and that's Paul Goldschmidt. One of the best first basemen of the decade, if not the best first baseman with him and Freddie going back and forth probably in this. But, I mean, this dude's so good. He's so underrated. I think when guys go to St. Louis, you can kind of forget about them just because it's just so normal to play good baseball over there. And he has been playing so good baseball for that great Cardinals team. And that lands by number 4 on my list. On to number 3.
Number 3, I have Vladimir Guerrero. Probably the best hit tool out of all the first basemen. And, young superstar. Vladdy.
Wow. Number 3 for me has got to be Freddie.
You didn't make your list?
Yeah, of course. Freddie Freeman's going to be number 3 for me. Power numbers are down this year, but he's still hitting around 300, still playing good defense. And Freddie's just being Freddie, but in LA this time rather than Atlanta. On to number 2.
Number 2, Polar Pete. Best power hitter out of all the first basemen. Still on fire. One of the guys who hasn't slumped a little bit for the Mets this year. Home run derby champion 2 times.
Yeah, it's true. Number 2 for me is going to be Matt Olsen. I know he's been down this year, but he's one of the few first basemen that show that defense matters for first baseman, and he's by far the greatest or best defensive first baseman that we've seen in the game right now. I know the bat isn't really there, but neither is Freddie's. I know Freddie has been hitting for average, but both of them have like 5 or 6 home runs. Braves fans hate Matt Olsen right now, which is absolutely the worst thing I've ever seen. I've seen a whole bunch of tweets saying that, Olsen sucks. I wish we had Freddie back. But Matt Olsen's different than Freddie. You guys have got to realize that defense matters as a first baseman. He's making plays. He's picking balls from Austin Riley, who's got a fucking inaccurate arm, who's just throwing it into the dirt, and Matt Olsen's, picked it, got it. Freddie Freeman's not doing that. Mariners on second base when Freddie Freeman's doing that. So I'm going with Olsen at number 2. On to number 1.
My number 1's Paul Goldschmidt. He's the only guy on this list over the past 5 years to be top 3 in offense and defense from this position. And he's 34 now, and he's still looking like an MVP caliber player. He's got to be number 1 for me.
Number 1 for me has got to be Vlad. It's just got to be Vlad. I know he's down this year a little bit, but he's going to get going. Kid's only like 22 years old, so it's not like he's really going anywhere at this point. He's got a lot of time. He had a whole bunch of bombs last year. I think that's going to continue. You just got to get hot. A lot of slow starts from players this year, but I think we're going to see him get going here very, very soon. And that's going to do it for our top 10 first basemen. Let's go ahead and send it to halftime.
All right, everybody. Welcome to halftime. We got to start it off with some sad news, though. Jeff Gladney, NFL corner, passed away at 25 the other day. Very sad. So we'll just talk about him a little bit, I guess. From TCU, he's a great player there. Drafted 31st overall in the 2020 NFL draft. Had 1 year with Minnesota with 3 deflections and a forced fumble. He got hurt and he just couldn't recover fast enough from it. So Minnesota waived him, and Arizona picked him up for this season. So we won't get to see him in Arizona, which is sad. But I have one fun fact about him and the draft. The Niners traded the 31st pick and a 5th round pick, who turned out to be KJ Osborne, to the Vikings for Brandon Ayuk. So that's pretty interesting. I think, KJ Osborne was pretty good last year too. He's pretty comparable to Brandon Ayuk. So decent trade all around, and very sad for Jeff Gladney, and we'll be thinking about him.
Of course, man. Of course. R.I.P.
Yep. Some brighter news though. Darvin Ham, former assistant head coach, former G League head coach, he got hired. Man, the Lakers got a new head coach, Darvin Ham. He played from 96 to 2008 in the NBA and was an assistant with the Lakers for a couple of years and the Hawks for a while, most recently the Bucks. Obviously this guy,
This was shocking to me. I thought they were going to go with Mark Jackson. I felt like that was a pretty good option there, but I did not see Darvin Ham being the guy for one of basketball's biggest and most famous franchises.
I'm not upset with it because he played in the G League and started out as a coach in the G League. So I'm sure he could reach those younger players, help in development. He's worked with Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, Dwight Howard, Giannis. So I'm not upset with this one. I think the Lakers got a good one, maybe more of a developer than a GM type coach. So hopefully that'll help him.
Yeah, they already got a GM. He's playing point guard for him.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess we'll finish it off. The NBA draft lottery happened a couple weeks ago. We didn't get a full mock draft in reaction because it happened right after we finished our show. So I'll talk about some notable picks here in a mock draft. Number 1, the Orlando Magic going Chet Holmgren here. I think we know who the top 3 players are going to be. Just the order is a bit confusing. Orlando is a team that is a little more set than the others. They have a lot of guards and they have 2 big men. But I think Chet Holmgren could take over the Mo Bamba role. He should be a great defender, projects to be one. And I wouldn't be upset here. I think he fits more with with OKC. Do you have something?
I've always been curious about Chet Holmgren, and I look at him and his size, and I'm just so confused on how he's going to be able to stop a lot of guys in the NBA. I know he's tall. I know he's super, super lanky, but there's a lot of guys that look to be a lot stronger than him in the NBA. So,
I think that's possible. But Giannis was skinnier when he came into the league. It's possible.
Yeah, but I always hear elite defender with Chet, and I feel like he's just going to get bodied. I feel like
he's always, the thing about him is he's always moving. He doesn't get lost in space. He's always thinking too. I think that's part of it too. He may be a little, I don't want to say undersized, but under strength. Yeah. But I think kind of how Gobert thinks Chet Holmgren can do it from the perimeter, which we've never seen before. And that's why he's projected so high, The next pick, OKC, who I sure really wants Chet Holmgren because they like those development guys. They're going with Jabari Smith here. He's compared to two-way Rashard Lewis or Michael Porter Jr. type guy. This is a guy who can create his own shot. So I'm sure OKC would be fine with that too. And number 3, Houston. They're going with Paolo Banchero, the third of the top 3 here. They compare him to Chris Webber, Julius Randle. This is a guy who is probably the most NBA ready out of all these guys. They just don't know how he would play with the others. And maybe that's why Houston, who doesn't really have any chemistry right now, would want him.
That's fair.
Number 4, sorry.
No, nothing. It's just Houston's a train wreck.
Yes, that is true. Number 4, Sacramento lucked into the top 5 here. They got number 4. They're going with Shaedon Sharpe, wing from, he went to Kentucky for a little bit, but he never played there. So he's a wing from USA. They compare him to Paul George or a taller Bradley Beal. And I'm sure Sacramento would be stoked for that. Obviously,
probably going to turn into Mario Hezonja if he's going to Sacramento.
Probably, which we won't be rooting for him to land there. But if he does, good luck.
He's probably going to suck. Yeah.
Rounding out the top 5, Detroit, who is probably going to be upset they don't get one of those big men. But they're going to go with Jaden Ivey here, the first sophomore off the board in a year of sophomores. he's an explosive guard compared to Donovan Mitchell or Victor Oladipo.
I like this draft class.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like there's a lot of starters here. Not a boomer bust here. Yeah. Number 6, here's another one of those guys. Keegan Murray, a sophomore from Iowa, going to the Pacers. Forward compared to Pascal Siakam or TJ Warren, who, sounds like a solid starter.
Yeah.
7th, AJ Griffin to the Trailblazers. Portland needs a whole lot. And here's a 3-and-D guy, and AJ Griffin from Duke. They compare him to Jaylen Brown or a 3-point shooting Jimmy Butler. And there's a nice little running mate for Dame.
Yeah, I think Dame, if they just go into the season with this roster, Dame's not going to like it. So they got to make a move for a star or trade Dame and get past this era with him. But I don't know, I think Dame's kind of done with this complacency. He either wants to be a title contender or he just wants to be a title contender, basically.
Yeah. Number 8, New Orleans got this pick from the Lakers. They're going with Johnny Davis, the guard from Wisconsin, a bigger rebounding kind of a 2 guard that kind of ran the 1 in college. So it's interesting, but they compare him to Devin Harris or Sean Livingston. And I mean, kind of perfect for New Orleans. They just need bodies who can score right now, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Number 9, San Antonio, going with Benedict Mathurin, wing from Arizona. They compare him to Karis LeVert or Jamal Crawford. Just a really explosive dude, and that's what San Antonio loves.
True.
And we'll end after the 10th pick here. Washington, they're going with Jeremy Sohan, I think is how you say his name, the wing from Baylor. They think he's Draymond Green. He's 6'9", 230, kind of a pass-first defending forward. And I know Draymond is high praise, very high praise. But yeah, it fits the mold here. So a guy who maybe could go earlier than this. We saw Patrick Williams go number 4 to the Bulls. So another guy to keep your eye on. And all right, we'll wrap up halftime with that right there.
Yeah. Next up that we're talking about is going to be our full in-depth NBA Finals preview. We're kind of going offhand here. We don't really have any guided schedule for this, but there's a few things that I want to talk about that we talked about last year. I saw on social media earlier today. So first thing that I want to talk about, I saw Colin Cowherd do it, was ranking his top 10 players in the finals. Not doing 10 guys though. We're going to do 5. So we can start from the top. Who do you think is the best player in the NBA Finals this year?
I think I have to say Jason Tatum.
Why? Why Tatum over Curry? Basically, is the question there.
Because I think he has a better ability to take over a game.
It's fair. That's fair. I'm definitely saying
on his own, not in like matchup wise. By himself, I think I have to take Tatum.
I'm going Steph. Steph is the best player in this finals. The gravity that he creates on offense he's the only guy in NBA history that you have to pick up from half court. And when you have to do that, you can get beat at the rim because he's so quick, and now he's so strong at this point too. So I'm going Steph at number 1, which leads to Tatum at number 2, obviously. Yeah. And I'm a big Tatum guy. Yeah, I'm a huge Tatum guy. So, I mean, I've just put Tatum right behind Curry here. It's not a big gap, but it's a gap.
All right. Obviously, Steph would be next for me.
And then who's your number 3?
Number 3. I'm going to have to go with Jaylen Brown, slightly over Jordan Poole. Maybe Jordan shock Poole. For you. Yeah. Because it's a similar role. Jaylen Brown has just been doing it longer, a little better.
Yeah, for number 3 for me, I'm also going Jaylen Brown. I look at him and I see a lot of Klay Thompson. Not in the way that he can shoot as well, obviously, but he's a little bit more athletic than Klay Thompson. He's a really good two-way player, two-way wing, the big wing pretty much for that Celtics team. So I have Brown at number 3, and then from number 4, I have Draymond. I think Draymond's definitely got to be number 4 for me over Poole, over Klay, over any of those guys, over Marcus Smart as well. Just because his understanding of the game, especially in the Warriors system, is so well. He does everything right on defense. He's going to do a lot of things right on offense. He has some sketchy games sometimes, but it's not all the time, and it's not the majority of the time either. Obviously, he can't shoot well, but Draymond is Draymond, man. Playoff Draymond is back, and it's good to see. Who's your number 4, Skyler?
So 4, like I said, is going to be Jordan Poole, because I think he can get to the basket a lot easier than a lot of these other guys. And especially in this series, the 1 and 2 best defenses in the league, that's going to be a huge factor. And then I'll just say 5 is Draymond for the same reasons. I just, I guess for this series, I liked having Poole at 4 for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, 5 is an interesting spot for me. I think you can either go Klay, or you can go Wiggins here. You could go Poole, whatever you really want to do. You could go Marcus Smart if you're a Celtics fan, I guess. I'm going to go Klay, very slightly over Wiggins, just because Klay is still a lights-out shooter, and he can play some great defense. Wiggins, I think, has the capability to do more as far as on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. But Klay has a very good understanding of what he can do, what he's good at, what he's not good at. And he plays to his strengths super, super well. So I got Klay as number 5. Next up, this question seems a little bit one-sided. I feel like so the question is, which ring would mean more for each side, like a ring for the Celtics and Tatum getting his first ring, and Jaylen Brown and that duo getting their first ring, Marcus Smart, and just all the stuff Boston's gone through this year with being shitty and then being decent, new coach, and then becoming one of the best teams in the league, or the Warriors, who this isn't going to make them a dynasty. I think Draymond already said this already, but this ring isn't going to make them a dynasty. This ring isn't going to make them anything that they weren't before. This is just going to add on to it, and it's going to make this dynasty even greater than it was before. So what ring do you think would mean more?
I think if the Warriors won, it would definitely let the league know we're not going anywhere. But with Boston, this was such a hard playoff run for them. I think to actually get it done would mean more here. Obviously, they if you ask a Celtics fan, they've been screwed a couple of times here since 2008, the last time they've won it. And for those reasons, I'm going with Boston.
As much as I want to say the Warriors, I think in Jason Tatum's legacy, because that's what really stands out the most to me when it's going to be all said and done, and he's 38, 39 years old, and we're looking at what he did in his career and the teams that he beat and stuff like that. If he has his first ring come against this dynasty, this team, I know people are going to be saying at that point, oh, Steph was washed and Draymond couldn't shoot, blah, 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 clothes come off these injuries. But if Jason Tatum beats this team, it's obviously going to be the greatest accomplishment of his life basketball-wise, but, it's going to mean a lot for his legacy. Celtics-wise, I don't think it means as much. The Celtics have won a ton of rings in their existence, but as far as for Jason Tatum's legacy, I definitely think it means more. In total team legacy, I'll go with the Warriors, though.
All right.
Next up, let's get to the series now itself. Who do you think is going to win this series? We're not going to get to Finals MVP quite yet.
Okay.
But who do you think is going to win this series, and why do you think they're going to win the series, and in how many games is that team going to win this
All right.
series?
Should I go through my monologue now?
Yeah. Monologue time. Skyler was talking about his monologue prior to the show. We didn't really know when to get to it, though, but we're getting to it now.
All right. Here we go. I am surprised that Boston isn't a heavy favorite. Since Steve Kerr was hired, Boston's had the best record against Warriors in the NBA. They have unlocked a way to defend them that no one else has figured out yet. However, Golden State's no slouch on defense either. Tatum was turning over the ball like crazy against Miami, except for game 7. When he got a double team, he didn't know what to do with it. And Golden State on offense has stretches every single game where they're unguardable. Just depends how long the stretch is. The series starts with Curry versus Smart. That's important, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the wings. Can Wiggins stay solid on D, still slam it down? Can Clay hit all of his open shots and rotate in time? Can Draymond shut down Horford and Williams without getting too emotional? I say yes. It's Warriors in 7. If it's not their year, I don't know whose it is.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok today, which was actually kind of funny. This guy goes, this is one of the best matchups we've ever seen against the Warriors in the finals, where they have not really, because the Warriors want you to switch. They want you to switch guys into certain spots, create terrible matchups. And the Celtics, there isn't really any terrible matchups. I think the bigs match up with the bigs well. The guards match up with the guards really well, especially defensively. Marcus Smart has played really well against Steph in his whole career. But there's all these things and that lead into the Celtics. And then he goes, with that being said, I have the Warriors in 6 games, which is true. There's I look at this and there's just Boston can play really well, but it's the Warriors. And I think a lot of people have given that respect now at this point, where they understand this isn't just any team. This isn't a team that's playing in the first finals that's going to have the nerves of this Boston Celtics team who doesn't have anybody on their roster who's played in the NBA Finals. Draymond Green has said it multiple times in interviews where the finals are just different. You can play in all these playoff games before, but if you've never played in a finals game, it's just different. And there's Draymond, there's Steph, there's Clay, there's Looney. I know Wiseman hasn't yet. I know Poole hasn't yet. But these guys have played in 40 finals games. And there isn't a lot of people who have done that. So just like that TikTok said, I'm going with the Warriors in 6. Next up, we got to award an MVP. Mm-hmm. We got to. Who's your finals MVP, Skyler?
He's finally going to get it. I think Wiggins is going to play like the MVP, but when it's all said and done, they got to give it to Steph Curry because he's going to average the most points. He's going to have that moment where he heats up and he's unguardable. Obviously, It takes a little bit of everybody doing that to win a finals, but I think the big one's going to be from Curry. He's going to finally get his hardware.
Yeah, this is Steph's time. He doesn't really have anything to prove, but he's got a whole lot to lose, I feel like, at this point. I feel like for legacy speaking, if you go 3-3 in the finals, it's kind of tough to look at it that way. But 4-2 is a whole lot different than 3-3. And getting that first finals MVP, I mean, Steph's going to lock into a mode that I don't think we've really seen in quite some time, or really at all in his career, where he's going, I'm not letting this team lose. And usually it's Draymond that's like that, where even though he's not scoring, he's doing a lot of things defensively, stuff like that. He's not letting this team lose. But I think Steph locking into that mode now too. And I think Steph finally does get his first finals MVP. And if he does, it's going to be very sweet to say that he did. With that being said, let's go to our bets.
All right.
Last week was rough. It was really, really rough.
Woof.
I got one pick right. Skyler got no picks right. I had the A's, M's, NRFI on Wednesday. There was not a run in the first inning, so I got that right. Skyler had Houston winning the series at Seattle. Seattle somehow played well and won the series there. So Skyler gets that in the red. This week, though, I have the Yankees over the Angels tomorrow. That's Nestor Cortez Day versus Reed Detmers. So I'm picking the Yanks.
All right. I'm going with the Rays to win a series against Chicago this weekend. Chicago already battling injuries. Now they don't have Tim Anderson either. Tampa Bay should probably shut them out at least once.
Sure. On to last week for our bold predictions. I had Jason Tatum averages 30-plus in the series. He averaged 25. He had a good series. Obviously won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, but he didn't have that unconscious series of averaging 30-plus, which was probably impossible for him to even get. But nonetheless, good series for Tatum, but it's going to be a red for me. And then Skylar had Miami in 7. Unfortunately, Miami did not win in 7. Maybe if Jimmy Butler hit that shot, it is green right now, but it's not. And then this week, I have the Mets taking at least 3 out of 4 in Los Angeles versus the Dodgers. Should be a fun series to watch this weekend. 2 of the best teams in the NL going at it. And I think the Mets are just going to show why they're the best right now.
All right.
Philly, what do you got?
So you may be wondering why I had the Warriors in 7 instead of 6, like Kyle here. And let me tell you why. Boston is going to win a game on the road at Golden State. I think they just, like I said, well, let me get that. I'll explain here. Like I said, I think Boston's unlocked a way to defend the Warriors that no one else understands how to do it yet. And I think probably one of the first 2 games, the Warriors are going to get absolutely embarrassed. The headlines are going to be crazy. They're going to talk about the Warriors blowing it, Steph's legacy, but it's not going to faze them. And because of the headlines I'm predicting, that's why I have it in a bold prediction here.
Okay, that's fair. As I said, I was just looking at this, I'm like, I don't know if that's super bold. Yeah. Boston has been super good as far as winning games on the road, and they'd have 4 chances if it goes to 7. But
I'll say Boston embarrasses at Warriors.
All right, sounds good. All right, that's going to do it for episode 90, though. It's been a fun one. Top 10 second basemen in the MLB.
Yeah, that's the big thing we're talking about next week.
Next week, yeah. We'll be through game 2 of the finals, I believe.
1-1.
The points of the series will be going back to Boston at that point.
Yeah.
It'll be past June 1st, so maybe the Raiders have made a move as far as with that $20 million of cap space that they're getting here in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Our bets obviously will be answered, and we'll see. So we shall see y'all next Tuesday when we do episode 91.
Go Warriors. Watch the finals. Curry is the greatest to ever do it.
Greatest of all time. Later.